Gaming and BS episode 237, being recorded April 7th, 2019. Welcome to Gaming and BS, the tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad everybody's on board. Sean, how the hell are you, man?
I'm doing just fantastic, Brett. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So I guess we don't, he's been on the show plenty of times. We don't have to, tease this or anything. But Alex Kammer from GameholeCon is with us today. Hello, Alex.
Hey, boys. Thanks for having me back. I plan to get my Gaming and BS 10th appearance jacket shortly. I'm sure it'd be some sort of corduroy number. Looking forward to wearing it in the holidays. So thank you.
You're welcome. It is quite dandy. It's very the polka dots really set off your eyes. It'll be amazing. Polka dots and corduroy. Mm-hmm. So, while we've got Alex here, obviously we've got other stuff to talk about later on. But when we get into the announcements here, so Alex, what's new at GameholeCon for this year for 2019? What do we got cooking?
Well, the usual, it's just such a machine now. It's a year-long cycle, and we're just in you could talk to me at any point, and you're in a certain point along that cycle. And right now, we're generating all the cool new swag for next year, or next year now, this fall. So that means the new plushie is in active production in terms of prototypes and all that kind of stuff.
Have you said what the new plushie is? Have you?
I haven't, but I'll tell you guys right now. It's a Displacer Beast.
Oh, awesome.
That's cool. Nobody else knows. We got the exclusive download.
You do. You got it. And we're also, we always give a custom D6 away every year with that year's logo. This year we're doing, also in addition, we're producing a full set of some really sweet dice with GHC logos on them that if people are so inclined, they can buy. And we're, as you know, we sell all that stuff for just barely over what it costs us to produce it because we're not too interested in making money on any of this stuff, just to have some fun stuff. So we got a new dice set that we're actively working on. I've been screwing around with that for the last couple of days, getting the right logo size. It's kind of hard to get, like the D12 and the D8, a logo to fit each one of those weird little faces. So that's been taking a little time. And then beyond that, the AL Hall swag, we try to give those DMs, they work so hard, we try to come up with some new swag piece. Working on a kind of a cool D&D hat, a trucker hat kind of thing with like a cool patch on it. And
nice.
Getting some prototypes. I'm not sure if that's going to be the final product or not, but we're looking at some different products. We'll see. And then, of course, on the calendar, we're approaching April 15, which is our actually sort of the launch, the official start of the GHC yearly calendar. And that is when everyone can start submitting games. And that's a great time for us because it's a magical experience when you run a show, as you know, Brett. When you you open up your interface and you see, holy crap, look at the stuff that people put in. Because you don't have any warning what's coming or how much or what it's going to look like. You see all this great stuff like, man, this is great, because you don't know. You don't have any control over that. People always think, why don't you guys run more X? We're just the vehicle. We don't actually run games. We set up the milieu, we set up the platform, the stage for you all to run games. And anyway, so it's cool to see that stage and that playbill get filled out with all kinds of awesome games. And that starts on April 15. So excited to see that. Yeah,
awesome. So folks out there who are going to come to GameholeCon, it is October 31st, and Halloween is when it starts this year. And if you're going to run games under the Gaming and BS banner, April 15th, you guys can get in there and start loading up the system. So, yeah, Alex, it's interesting, even in my little bitty EverCon, which is obviously a much smaller subset, but it's still really cool. You'll have people like, oh, I'm going to run this, I'm going to do that. And you sit there and you just see this wave of stuff that shows up. You're like, I didn't even know who these people are. This is amazing. They're going to run this game. They're going to run that game. It is really cool to see all the really neat stuff and the passion that people put into their descriptions and everything that they want to do at your event. So it's really, really neat. That's awesome.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So that's, in a nutshell, where things stand. I'm in about a month or so, I fly out to Seattle and to meet with all my Wizards friends to talk about all the kind of stuff that they want to do at the show. We're starting to put the streaming schedule together. Getting a handle on guests. We have most of the guests. If you go to the page, we have 90% of the guests are in. There are probably a few more, and some pretty big names will be added late as usual. Those folks like to wait till the last moment based on their complicated schedules. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all coming together, man. We're pretty systematized now. Everyone knows what they're doing and when they're doing it, and so it's a little less desperate than it was a few years ago. You know, we're like, holy shit, how are we going to pull this all together? Now it's all right. Here, it's this time of year. This is what we should be doing. And
well, not only have you guys grown, but you've changed venues, right? So in the middle of that growth, you also had to hop venues. So it's figuring out how you're going to deal with like the hotel space, then go from that to the convention center. Growth. And new venue, new this, new that. Oh shit, that didn't work. The band, bad idea. This, terrible idea. That, oh my God, what are we doing there? So it's still my favorite convention, honestly.
I appreciate
it's awesome.
that.
It's really
I appreciate that. The new hotel that's coming online and it's almost built is going to be a big help. And then, of course, I don't know if you heard our new governor made a big announcement about the expansion of the whole campus there, adding on not only 200,000 square feet to the Alliant Energy Center, but also redeveloping that whole block, which is desperately needed, and that's going to be great for everyone, especially our attendees, because they're going to have great new stuff, and that means some new restaurants and more hotels and stuff like that. So over the next few years, we should see some nice development of that corridor, which is sorely needed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sean, you got any questions for Alex on that?
No, man.
I got one last one. Now, Alex, because you guys, it's got to be Halloween because the way schedules align and the planets and whatnot. Is there anything kind of crazy cool that you have for Halloween, or is that still in the works? If you're not ready, don't spill. But I'm just curious. My kids are begging me to ask, so I'm asking.
I'm totally ready. This is something I need to get in front of, and we're working on it. We're actually producing a special poster that's going to go out. Dane County and wider, and we're doing a cool ass trick or treat that night. I can't remember the hours. I think it's like 5:30 to 7:30 or something like that. And it's going to be free admission to any families who want to come with their kids and trick or treat. And the trick or treat's going to be pretty mind blowing. So what it's going to have is like 70 different spots on a map that they can come and trick or treat, including like not only every spot in the dealer hall, but places like the board game library. True Dungeon's going to do this mind-blowing little thing where kids can come into and trick-or-treat, and, we got to keep that kind of dialed back so it's not too like this big red dragon swooping out at them or anything like that, but it's going to be a spectacular theatrical D&D where people can come with their kids and be in a safe place, and it's free. There's free parking and free admission for that night for families. So in addition, of course, I'm sure will have much more dress-up, cosplay kind of stuff going on that night because of being Halloween. All the Gamehole staff will certainly be in costume. And the talk on, the various Facebook pages and so on about the show, lots of Halloween-themed games are going to be played that night. So heavy horror themes and Cthulhu themes and spooky stuff. And so it should be really fun. I don't know. This is going to be really interesting to see how it all goes. But I'm excited about it. My kids are geek beyond imagination. I mean, they're literally like counting down the days. I'm like, hey guys, it's April.
Give me a break. Jesus.
Yeah. So no, it should be fun. And I'm hoping that, the Department of Tourism is behind it there. They think it's cool. So that, we're going to have some pretty good advertising about it because I want lots of kids to come in and trick-or-treat, have a great trick-or-treat experience, see what's going on, just get exposed to gaming a little bit, and they say, hey, Mom, what are those guys doing over there? And go through the dealer hall and see. That'll be great for the dealers. They get to have lots of exposure. That's in a nutshell what's going to be special and different about the Thursday of the show this year.
So we might see you and the guys dressed in something other than the Haggard Con runner costume that you usually run. I know that look. I wear it every January.
The gaunt orange, as we call it. Yeah, no, we'll have. Yeah, that night we'll have some stuff on. You might see high likelihood of seeing Pickle Rick as director that night.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Sean, what else do we got for announcements? Did you pick a die winner?
We did, man. It's going to be. Hold on. All right, we did get a winner for the random. So this is hilarious. So, Alex, every month we draw a name because they get a free set of awesome dice if they've signed up to our email list. They're automatically entered to win. So this is like month 3, I think, or 4. Mm-hmm. So I download the list. I go to a random number generator online, number 75. I go down the list. Brett Blazinski.
No kidding.
I'm like, bullshit on that.
Bullshit.
Like,
Click.
bullshit
My
on
name's
that.
in there 8 times. I am desperately trying to win.
I'm like, so it was not Brett. It was John Hammersley was the
Wow.
lucky winner for the month of March. So, John, I'll reach out to you via email to make sure I can pass that along to the folks at awesomedice.com, and you will get a free set of dice sent to you. For those of you that did not win, there is still time. So be sure to head over to Gaming and BS, enter your email into our website. You'll be automatically entered to win a set of dice. And if you'd like to support awesomedice.com, just head to the website, place an order for $10 or more, use promo code GamingBS, and then you get 15% off your order. So
Very
there
cool.
you go.
Sean, how is the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society stuff doing? You got that
very,
cooking?
very, very well. So I did get a couple folks from the audience that decided to help out. Mark Desak, thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it. And if folks are spreading the word, so doing well. I've got a lot of more ground to cover in the next. We're in week 3 of a 10-week campaign. So thanks for everybody that's helped in any way that you can, even just spreading the word. So thank you very much.
Well, speaking of Mark Tasaka, he sent us a number of copies of his White Box Eastern Adventures book. Mark, that crazy nut. He's well. I mean, our listeners are some incredibly generous people, and Mark is just an example of that. He created a really cool thing we talked about last episode, and he hit Sean with a bunch of copies. So thank you very much, Mark.
Yeah, like 10, 12, 15, something like that. It's so Mark said we can do with them what we please. So I don't know what we're going to have to do. I don't know if we just throw that into drawing every month and people get a free copy of White Box Eastern Adventures.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. That's it, I think, for all the announcements.
Cool. Let's go to random encounters and keep moving.
Where is it here? You think I've done this before. All right. Random encounter where we field emails, voicemails, and comments from social media. We've got a voicemail from DM Kojo. Not to let us down. He comes back through. So here's DM Kojo on, I think he's commenting on Total Party Kill from the last episode.
BSers, it's Kojo. TPK, one of my favorite subjects. Great episode. Hey, I don't ever set up to try to get a TPK on my players, but, if it happens, it happens. I don't ever fudge dice to try to prevent it from happening, regardless. In fact, I can't think of a game that I haven't gotten a TPK in, with the exception of Fantasy Flight Star Wars, and those characters are pretty tough to kill off. So, but I always try to leave the players a way out so that, if they get a TPK because they made bad choices, then, that's the way it goes. But I never put them in situations where they can't escape or they can't run away or figure out, what they need to do to avoid a TPK. I just don't think that's fair. It's not adversarial on my part. I don't try to get TPKs. I try to create challenging adventures, and I don't believe in game balance. So you're going to run into stuff that you can't defeat and you have to run away or defeat in some other manner besides just fighting. So anyways, that's my thoughts on TPKs. I do enjoy them. I think that they're fun from a narrative perspective. If everybody goes down in a blaze of glory, that's awesome. But, I don't try to set it up that way. So just my thoughts. Thanks, guys. Take it easy. Bye.
Yeah, I don't set it up that way either. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It just happens.
It just happens that way.
Alex, have you had a TPK at the game hole?
Oh, sure.
I heard the sigh of, oh, yeah.
Well, you got to keep in mind, guys, that we've been playing together for so long at such volume. I continue to be amazed by how little people actually play, to some extent, because it's just life is busy and it's hard to get schedules to coordinate. It's hard to find fellow gamers and all that kind of stuff. And I continue to thank my lucky stars for such a stable game group amongst such good friends and so on that we can play once a week for now coming on 20 years. And as a result, we have played a shitload of games and campaigns, and some turn left, and that's the way it goes. When I run, I try to avoid TPK, I try to set the my games up to be very challenging but survivable. But I'm not going to fudge things to keep people from either bad rolls happen, that just happens. Aside, one side can just roll poorly, or but so I don't try to keep things artificially from a TPK, but I try to set it up that they're brought to the brink, but yet survive. That's, to me, that is the height of the gaming experience, that the player can walk away thinking, wow, that was fucking close, man, and really exciting. But we pulled through, and I had to drag two people out of there, but we did it. That's, to me, is the ultimate. That's the goal. That's the experience that I want to deliver. So it's been several years since it's been like a true blaze out, like let's start over, and that's usually when that's, quite frankly, it was years ago when I was not as good at this as I am now.
Well, I'll tell you, I've had this described to me before, and I can't remember if it was John Wick or somebody called it the John McClane thing, right? You want to be diehard. You want to just be down, beaten, bloody, but you won.
Yep.
You want to feel like skin on my teeth, just fingernails busted off. I pulled this off.
Yeah.
So, but then again, sometimes players make incredibly stupid decisions, and hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Although, there's a lot of people who say this, and there's some famous ones out there who say, I don't kill players, players kill players. Well, you've set up essentially an impossible scenario, where you're players don't kill players. Well, I'm just not going to go on the adventure then. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to open up a craft shop instead, and I'm not going to go into the grinder that you have set up over there. Now, have I won? Do I have survived? I've passed your test. I mean, that's sort of nonsensical, I think. And I think we all know who I'm talking about.
Yes, yeah. The true railroad to a TPK approach.
Yeah,
yes.
That's dumb. I just think that's. I don't know. People still sign up for that stuff, and I have no idea why. But I guess different strokes.
Cool. Sean, you want to read the next one, man?
Sure, man. Mad of House V comments on TPK. First, thanks for the plug for Critical Core. So for those of you that don't know what Critical Core is, that was a Kickstarter about the Critical Core game that was really catered towards folks, kids with autism or on the spectrum. Did you see that Kickstarter?
I did. That looks really cool.
Yeah. So he continues, my oldest son has autism, so I supported it. I play some Hero Kids RPG with him and my 8-year-old and even the 3-year-old. But it will be good to have a game that focuses on autism help. Very cool. Good articles on zones. I hope you post the follow-up so I can read them. That helped put it in a way I haven't quite heard articulated yet. On TPKs, I say it massively depends. For one-shots, I really don't care as a game master or a player. In a campaign, I tend to not like them on either side of the screen. As a GM, I am usually prepared several sessions ahead, so a TPK wastes several hours of labor. Agreed. I think that's the biggest pain. Prepare everything and then everybody's dead. Awesome. Might be a dumb reason, but my time is important to me, and when I wasted it, it annoys me. The one I mentioned with a TPK on a save or die had the entire following book prepped on map tools, probably 15 plus hours of work. I'm pretty good at getting players to ride the rails, but I don't force them to be on the rails. Last AP I ran, the players skipped nearly an entire book because they deduced some info early and combined it with foreshadowing from several months earlier. I usually prefer to run pre-printed campaigns with my own spin that I've gotten quite good at over the last decade. Prior to that, I only ran homebrew. However, I don't roll behind a screen and actually try and use some form of player-facing dice if possible within the system, even if not inherent to the rules. Some systems like Genesis and Fate can easily be all player-facing even though not inherent to the rules. I find player-facing dice help a lot with character death. I haven't had a TPK using the method, but players seem like they handle it better when they kill themselves and it's not me. As a player, the groups I play with tend to be pretty big into backstory, character tie-ins, and personal character stories. Sometimes a few deaths can destroy an interesting story arc that's going on. The TPK obviously ruins all of those. It also depends on how the TPK happens. If it's based on rolls, such as save versus die, I think that's a bad way to end a campaign. If the players have made mistakes or just had a stream of bad luck, it's still annoying, but that's how it rolls sometimes. However, the end game, hey, we are sacrificing ourselves for the greater good, doesn't bother me. However, it's anticlimactic if not at some kind of endpoint, in my opinion. I could, however, see a situation arising as well where the campaign has lost steam or people are moving or whatever, and an epic sacrifice may be the most satisfying conclusion. I have never been in this situation, but I could see how it could happen. So all in all, I'd say I'm against TPKs and campaigns unless it's best for the story. However, I've never been one to stop them from happening either. However, I've had GMs pull punches to avoid them, sometimes obviously. It's a different narrative style. I get why you'd want to do that as a game master. I think what he's mentioning is I understand why you would want to pull punches.
No, absolutely. Alex, Sean and I talked about this before. Have the guys or anybody you've gamed with done the whole we will sacrifice ourselves for the greater good, that type of TPK where like, look, we all jump on the grenade type of thing? Have you run into that?
So to save other party members or to fulfill the narrative goal of the story?
Mostly the latter. I've got a buddy of mine in my home group, and Zave has a tendency. That is one of the he will offer up his character's life at any given moment to save almost anything. I'm wondering if that's if you've run into that type of thing. Usually to save narratively, say, hey, we'll save the world from Tiamat by all of us jumping in the portal type of thing.
That's interesting. I don't think we've ever had that scenario where it's been set up that made that an option. Where that the dungeon master set it up that the only way to solve this is the Gordian knot of life or death from the player standpoint, that you have to basically sacrifice yourselves to save. No, I don't think that I've never encountered that. I mean, there's certainly other characters have jumped in and taken one for the team and sacrificed themselves, especially proper role-playing, depending how their character's built, that's what they would do under those circumstances. Not like your friend who does that all the time. That doesn't make sense unless he plays the same kind of character every time.
Oh, he does.
Okay,
he absolutely does. That's his thing. He loves that. He loves that.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I guess so. Sort of, but not really. I don't think we've ever had a scenario set up like that where that was even an option. So interesting.
Cool. All right, Sean, you ready? I'll do the next one.
Go for it, man.
All right, Sky Slayton on TPKs. Greetings, podcast duo. Sicko, it feels good, man. I really should stop with these, but I'm not going to. I've only run 5e so far, so this all is based around that system. I think you covered this topic well in your episode. As long as the players know a TPK could happen, you wouldn't be fudging much to save them, and it makes sense. It'll be okay. Even if it's stupid, yeah, I guess we shouldn't have pulled that lever. They're probably going to be less upset about it. I think in general, it's also easier for players to deal with TPKs at two sections. At lower level, they haven't had much time with the PC, and at high level, close to the end game, TPKs, since it's kind of a closure. Where I see more players are going to be upset is that middle area where they played the PC long enough to be invested, and there's a decent amount of story left that they look forward to playing through. While I haven't had a TPK yet, I don't know if it would be the end of those PCs. Well, it depends on the challenge. I can think of very few situations where everyone dies is the only possible solution. I think that even in scenarios like I pull the lever, the room fills with water, and we can't get out, fade to black. Excuse me. You can make the case that the PC survived if at great cost. I think as a GM, quote unquote, everything. So I win the, oh, good Lord, what BBEG? What does that stand for, Sean? Big Bad Endgame?
Big Bad Evil Guy.
Big Bad Evil Guy. Thank you. Good Lord, didn't know that acronym. The Big Bad Evil Guy have enchanted that flooding room trap to keep creatures alive but unconscious. So the evil wizard would say, let's see what we caught in the flood room, Mortimer? Perhaps some tasty morsels or rare organs to be harvested. They're always best fresh, I think. Example, a party is about to get into part 2 of our season finale, and they just had 3 back-to-back fights. One almost a TPK, everyone was at sub 5 hit points. This next fight will be crazy. You have 6 level 4s versus Pirate Captain in a mech suit, CR7-ish, legendary actions. Pirate Captain is out of mech suit spellcaster, CR6-ish, legendary and lair actions. Her first mate and some elite units. Good Lord, this is getting ugly. And a bunch of mooks who have 1 hit point but still hit like CR3 pirates. On top of that, there's a gun emplacement. Good Lord, that will be making zones of the battlefield damaging. And more pirate mooks will come out of the ship and help every 1d4 rounds. And while the new cryopods with the children they're trying to rescue, including their 12-year-old orphan NPC Dodger, will be loaded onto the pirate ship. They will probably get racked. So I'll tell them where they get, and that this looks like they have a very slim chance of success and a very large chance of death. They don't have to fight, but knowing them, they will. I'm not going to creatively solve the situation for them, though. If they TPK, guess who just got stripped of all their stuff and are on their way to be sold into the fighting pits of Draknora? I think it makes sense that a group of pirates who also run slaves would take them, patch them up, and sell them off. Even in the weirdest situations, I think you can puzzle out a reason to have the K and TPK mean knockout instead. It doesn't depend on the tone. It does depend on the tone and the expectations you set in the beginning, but we are telling the story of the one group who did the thing, not the thousands of adventurers who all drank the potion that turned out to be poison. Anywho, cheers, Sky. Interesting. All right.
Interesting indeed.
Yes, thank you, Sky. Are we ready for the main topic? I think we're good.
Yeah, let's get into the main topic.
Let's dive into this thing. Dive.
All right.
You ready, Sean?
I'm ready.
All right. So a while back, Sean and I discussed Waterborne adventures. I think Sean had come up with this idea. We talked a little bit about ships, pirates, storms, dragon turtles, all sorts of stuff back in episode 219. However, I had not had a lot of experience with it. Sean had minimal. We had a lot of players write in on with some incredible ideas and advice and so forth. And then we're like, oh, it looks like Wizards of the Coast is doing this crazy salt marsh thing reborn. And then lo and behold, our buddy Alex Kammer is doing this Kickstarter thing, which also has to do with Waterborne adventures. We're like, we have a better chance of getting Alex on the show than somebody from Wizards. So let's call Alex. Alex, you're our silver medal. We love you.
Funny.
Thank you.
Well, hey, I'm happy to be Plan B.
All right. So, Alex, before we get too far into Waterborne adventures, crafting and so forth and whatnot, what's the name of the adventure that you're putting together here?
Yeah, the book that is coming out, the Kickstarter launches on April 30th through Frog God Games, is called Sea King's Malice. It is a full hardbound D&D adventure that will take y'all from level 1 through 10 and crosses several mediums in terms of where the PCs go, and a significant portion of it is on or in the water. And so you referenced the Saltmarsh book coming out. So I started writing this book back last February, so February of 18. And I started writing it, and I've been, worked on it, here and there, full-time job, all the other stuff, GameWorldCon, writing AL modules in between, wrote the Trillium book that came out last year, so I kind of was, bringing this thing along. And I was about 3/4 of the way done when in my inbox in October crops up the Saltmarsh playtest materials. And I thought, well, looky here. Isn't that interesting?
You sons of bitches.
No, it's the opposite. It's
okay.
Great. Are you kidding me? So the Wizards is going, with my whole book is about the Sahagin, essentially. And, Saltmarsh is bringing back the focus. They're not as waterborne as my adventure is, but they're dealing with coastal things. Actually, some of the other parts of the book will. The Saltmarsh stuff is not, of course. That's really sort of just shoreline mostly. But it brings all those aquan creatures back into the focus of the D&D world. Anytime a Wizards book hits, that's what everyone looks at. It's the topic of conversation. DMs Guild scrambles to print, to produce ancillary products. And so here comes Kramer's book at the same time, kickstarting. It couldn't have worked out better. So I'm thrilled, quite frankly. So my book is about the PCs are in a town. This is set in the Lost Lands setting, which is, pretty much classic medieval. So it could be the Forgotten Realms. It could even be Greyhawk. It could be ported to any setting, but it's the Frog God proprietary setting is Lost Lands, which is a Kickstarter that just wrapped up very successfully. They've been in there for 20 years. They're, gosh, I think literally hundreds of products have been placed in this setting. Anyway, you're starting a small seaport. You're hired to join a search and rescue mission for a missing ship and a missing sea captain. And of course, through almost everything I write is an investigation. I've realized that. That's kind of the thing I like to write, a mystery investigation. And so you follow clues. You basically start on the water for the first third of the book on a ship. Crossed and surviving hopefully lots of the hazards, same kind of things you just mentioned. We can talk about that to some extent, and if you want. And then you come to, I guess I can say this without being too spoilerific. There is also a significant portion of the book on a uncharted tropical island with all kinds of weird stuff going on, new monsters, strangeness happening. And the final third of the book, if you're so lucky, takes you under the waves into the depths to confront the Sea King himself in his vast Sahagan city in a trench in the middle of the ocean. So it's lots of different places for the characters to play, to succeed, and to die. And so it's going to be. I've had a tremendous, joyful time putting this thing together, and it's been nice to be able to take my time with it, have play test it thoroughly, get lots of eyes on it in the industry that help me. Make suggestions here and there, and I'm just delighted with the end product. It's in final editing now, and it's going to start layout soon. And so the book's written, the art, I've shared some of the art with you guys.
Oh my God, that's awesome looking stuff, dude. That is amazing.
Thank you. It's really next level stuff. I mean, this is going to be the deal. Let me put it this way: when I said yes to this, I said, guys, I'll do this. But this book has to be at least of good or better quality than any Wizards book that's out there. So it sits on the shelf. The binding is better. The cover is better. The paper's better. The art is as good or better. The layout, everything has to be that level. I'm not, and they are totally down with it. Their books the Frog God have gotten so good anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have.
So we're working with some other pretty exciting things I can't announce quite yet, but there's some other people who are entities out there who, let's say, they work with Wizards on some of the releases, and they may be likely going to be joining our Kickstarter at certain reward levels to produce different things in it. So I'm super excited about this. It's come together so nicely, and the playtesting has been great. I've been playing at shows. I'm going out to Colorado Springs here for KoboldCon at the end of the month, and for some more playtesting. I've been running it right now, about halfway through with the game hole. The guys have been really giving great feedback and having a lot of fun. So it's going real well.
Very cool.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, Alex, are there going to be ninjas in this?
Oh, Sean, just waiting in the weeds, weren't you?
Is this going to be
a ninja pirate, maybe? Maybe a ninja pirate dinosaur?
Yes, ninja pirate dinosaur. I want Waterborne ninja pirate dinosaurs. That's what I'm looking for.
Gosh,
I promise, I will not go to episode 51 and pull that out at 22 minutes. Or no, I think it was 40 minutes and some.
You can totally do that because this book is true to that. You will not find any of those things in this book.
Oh.
Yeah.
So before... let me ask a more legitimate question. So, did you draw anything from the Sea Devils, that Monsters Arcana book, the second ed D&D? It was all
that I have been carrying Skip's book with me everywhere I go for the last year.
All right, that's what I need to hear. I'm like, there's no way with his collection that he has not been devouring. You've been sleeping with that under your pillow, I figured.
Yeah, and so as part of this is one of the stretch goals. These guys asked me to write a Sahagan ecology book. I'm like, man. It's been done and done really well, but there's some so I'm doing it, but I'm taking in different directions. Skip did a great job, so let's do some props. First of all, Steve Marsh, thank you very much for inventing the Sahaga in the first place. I'll see you in Texas. I'll say hello and thank you in person for that. Skip for doing such a great job with this book and all the other people. Bruce Cordell did a great book too, and as part of that same series, developing these tremendously interesting creatures. They're cruel. They're single-minded in their thinking. They see every other life form as a food source, but they're highly organized and highly structured. They have a caste society that's basically founded on the principle of might makes right. So the strong rule and the weak serve. So I have done a lot of stuff. I'm writing a bunch of stuff about their systems of governance and their religion, the cult of the shark god. And that's a really heavy part of my book, the sort of religious fanaticism that has taken over the Sahagan and why they're doing what they're doing, which is somewhat unlike some of their core traits, which is they usually well, never do they leave. Do they take live prisoners? They just don't believe in it, except for my book. And there's a specific reason why they're doing so, and it's really creepy and really weird. And I think everyone's going to enjoy it. So yes, the Sea Devils has been tremendous, and I'm trying to write basically like a volume 2 of it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So one of the things that when Sean and I talked about this topic initially, neither he nor I had a lot of really good experiences with waterborne adventures, either on a pirate ship or any kind of waterborne, and especially underwater adventures. They were always kind of an aside or this really annoying, fucked up thing that the game master and we were okay, we're underwater. How these rules work. What I guess question for you is what draws you to waterborne? I mean, just even if we put your book aside. To me, I'm hearing you say you've got, if not a passion, or at least a desire for waterborne, underwater, on water type adventures. Have you had really good experiences with them in the past?
Mixed. I think like everyone else, because they're just like anything else, can be poorly done.
Absolutely.
I took it on actually this as more of a challenge because it forced me to really rethink how they go, first of all, how to write something like that, how to create interesting scenarios for the players to be extremely challenged, but ultimately hopefully succeed with really skillful play. And so that's been interesting. So like your example of a storm, I think that's an opportunity that's missed with GMs often because it takes some thought, I think, and some preparation. So you're imagining a storm, a medieval best vessel like a schooner or a clipper or something like that. So 2 or 3 masts, 3 decks, and it's rolling through the ocean with, going up big rollers and falling down mountains of water, basically. So everything that's not nailed down is pitching around. All the sail has been furled and tied down, and the boat in an extremely vulnerable state is attacked by marrow, let's say. So how the hell do you fight off aquan creatures that are essentially in their native environment with breakers rolling over the top of the ship, and you are there trying to cast magic missile, right? I mean, so I had to think through those mechanics because we don't really have any. There's not really any in any game system that's really, at least as far as I know, that are. There's some one-off stuff that is, I guess, but not in any of the core sets for any of the D&D stuff anyway.
Yeah, a lot of the fantasy D&D type things when it came to, I remember my first edition, even second edition books, I think a little bit in third and Pathfinder and whatnot, but how do spells work underwater? I remember that was a thing in the first edition DMG, like, hey, this spell, Firebolt, didn't work or this worked a certain way. Sure. But it was a very finite list, and that was one of the kind of the pieces that when you get nature in all of its fury and there's this craziness and then natural creatures in their element, how do you deal with somebody who goes, well, fuck it, I'll just do wall of fire, fireball and water breathing, and does the magic mess with the coolness of the natural impacts?
Well, it can, and so that's a slightly different subject when you talk about underwater. But I can answer this in 5e. They've made it pretty simple. Mm-hmm. If you have a swim speed, you can do pretty much anything. You can do all your things. Okay. Yeah, you can. It just works.
I've not done any waterborne much of anything in 5e. So
sure. So for the back to when I was talking about the heaving deck and massive breakers rolling over it and wind lashing and so on. So this is I created set some circumstances of concentration checks that to do everything and different dexterity or acrobatic checks to even move, and if not, you get swept to the rail, and then you have a chance to make a strength save to catch the rail before you're swept over, and the hungry sharks below are looking forward to your deliciousness, and so on. So I set up all this kind of stuff, and then I played it with my guys, and they said, "Jesus, that's hard." And I said, "Well, it should be. It should be really hard." I mean, what do you think? You're on a deck that's often at 45 degrees, plunging down a mountain of water while you're being hosed, with a fire hose and gale force winds. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't just be able to run up and skewer the monster. This is going to be really hard. You've got to be extraordinary and to accomplish that, and also play well and think your way through that about how you're actually going to accomplish those things. So, to me, the challenge of actually really thinking about those environments and what that would be like was fun for me, and I hope it translates into the book.
So to make the environments more realistic, instead of just relying on it's really hard or it's very windy or it's very wet, it sounds like you've got mechanical components, and it feels like Sean and I have talked about this a bit on other episodes when you're trying to enforce an effect, especially of nature, that type of thing, having those mechanics, especially custom ones for exactly what you're talking about, I think would be super helpful just to get the players really to understand how bad and how hard this really is. So I'm glad that it's tough because otherwise you'd be like, yeah, blah, 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 fluff, fluff, fluff. I run across the thing and stab it in the face, but you're actually making it difficult via mechanics to enforce that fact. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying. So I think it's being borne out in the playtest stuff. I think everyone has really enjoyed it, and they come off it exactly the experience I want. Like, shit, that was harrowing, but we survived. Exactly, perfect. That's all goals met.
Were there certain tropes that you wanted to? I guess when you were crafting this, one of the things that Sean and I talked about last, and that kind of troubles me, is if I'm like, okay, it's got to be you're on a boat, there'll be pirates, and there'll be a water dragon. I feel like I'm stuck to a certain trope or a concept that I just can't get away from. Were you? I guess because the alienness of the environment compared to a land or a dungeon or a mountain or something for whatever reason. I'm not a big water guy. So when you were approaching this, did you look at this saying, I don't want pirates. I want to do this thing from the land, but twist it so it's on the water? Or I guess how did you embrace the tropes? Did you try to flip them on their heads? What was your whole approach to that?
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, I didn't want to do straight down the line stuff. First of all, as far as pirates go, my feelings are well documented on the subject. Sean's ready to hit play. There's great pirate stuff out there. There's some really good pirate adventures out there, and I don't need to sort of half-ass that on my end. So there, spoiler alert, no pirates in Sea King's Malice. But there are some lots of other things that happen, and I'm trying to. So there are some, creatures that you, I guess, could maybe expect to a certain extent. But I've tried to make those encounters very different than that I've at least ever seen them go. So yeah, that's always the challenge, man. You're trying to write something, especially a big book that's a big, cool-looking hardbound that's going to sit in game store shelves, hopefully, across the country. I don't want someone to pick it up and say, "Wow, this is exactly vanilla adventure, ship adventure. This is everything I've always done before." No, so I tried to come up with unique, hopefully, twists on all these kinds of things, and until it comes out, and I guess someone can point out, hey, this was done by Pathfinder 15 years ago. I'm like, oh, shoot, well.
Son of a bitch.
Damn it. But I hope not anyway, and I don't think so. I think so. My best answer is, I sure as hell tried.
That's the best we can do.
Yeah.
So the other piece you mentioned was the underwater aspects of it, and one of the pieces that I love the idea. I love that idea, right? So you're on the deck of the ship. You got these huge rolling waves. Got mechanics to work with this stuff. We've got things kind of coming at me differently. But when it comes to like going from there underwater, because when I have played Waterborne adventures before, in my previous high school and college and whatever, people are like, oh fuck, I can't swim. I mean, like you say, 5e is a little bit different, but there's the risk of drowning or you're shipwrecked, you're lost. If there's a big gale and you get thrown overboard, fuck, you could be 2 miles away and you have no idea where the ship is. Everything's white or blue, depending on the weather. So with the underwater or actually in the water stuff, how do you make that, or how did you try to make it interesting and seem at least survivable versus y'all fucked because you're in the middle of the ocean, waiting for a shark to eat you?
Yeah, I'm going to try to answer that in a way that doesn't give it away, because yes, absolutely. So I guess you can do sort of like Storm King's Thunder did, and that is you get there somehow, teleportation, and there are pockets of air in this underwater realm. They're chambers that are air filled, and you can make your way through that, and that's how the one of the major sections of Storm King's Thunder is set up. And I didn't want to do that because that's how most of them go. So this is in my book, the final third of the book is truly in the water, underwater, and how does your standard dwarf, elf, tiefling, or whatever do that? It's not by submarine or anything like that. You're not putting on scuba gear.
No apparatus of Qualsh.
No apparatus, no mechanical things. It's not driven by magic items. I'm just going to say that the player characters have the opportunity to go through a very bizarre and creepy transformation that will allow them to be at home in the depths.
Okay.
I had a tremendous amount of fun writing that and all the side effects and the weird things that were going to happen to everyone. And so that's without really giving you a good answer.
No, that's cool. No, I like that's a good answer. So the other piece that gets me with underwater, I shouldn't say gets me, but one of the pieces Sean and I have talked about, like sci-fi and stuff, and one of the things I think is hilarious in certain space movies, you see these spaceships fighting with like earthbound dogfighting tactics. Like it's a three-dimensional, fully, anywhere you want. Water is very much the same, right? You can be attacked from above, below, all angles, all sides. So some people like to play D&D very tactically, not just theater of the mind. I know you're a theater of the mind kind of guy, but was that anything that you took into account as you put this together? Because I'm thinking, like, my crew sometimes get this hankering for really tactical. You want to pull the minis out.
Sure.
And dealing with levels, basically, because if you're floating in the middle of 100 foot deep, you could have, sharks come from below, sharks coming from on top, Sahagin coming from the sides. How did you think about that approach? Did that come into your brain like, hey, how the hell do I deal with this three-dimensional up, down, all sides tactics?
Absolutely. I'm trying to write this for every style of player and DM, which is, you try to do your best with that, but that is to have a central story, but yet sandboxy. Have it be narrative, which is my natural style, yet be tactical. And so, I try to do all those things. And yes, there are specific sections that are very well suited to tactical play. And I've created environments where that is possible. So there is a place where the passageways are up down instead of left right, because you're underwater and saltwater, and so those normal gravitational limitations are not there. So it's an up down kind of thing as you proceed. Certainly with where enemies are coming from. I tend to get really granular stuff. So what are the limits of vision? What are the limits of hearing? How do you deal with the cold at the depths? How do you deal with pressure at the depths? So I have tried to address all that stuff, because that there's going to be someone out there saying, that couldn't happen. You'd be crushed like a can if you're down at the depths, and so on. I get that, and I've tried to address as much of the real world stuff as it's realistic as we could expect in a fantastic adventure. I mean, gosh, it always is. Well, because magic.
Yeah, you could cast lightning bolt, but at this level, the water pressure would offer.
Yeah, I know. But I really don't want to rely on because magic too much. There's that gets too. I've gone, I've talked about my feelings on mega dungeons that way, and they're certainly fun, but geez, it's got to have a pretty good reason for why something like that exists, in my opinion. Leaving it, not to open that whole subject up, but that's the way I approach. That's the approach I take when I write stuff. Is that there is things, at least as well as I can, make sense, and there's a reason for the way things work, not just magic, or because I just that's a little thin for me.
No, that makes sense. I think what you were describing about the passages up and down, side to side, and all that stuff. I think from a tactical perspective, even if you don't get super noodly with minis and push and let across the table type of thing, even the narrative tactical approach is I think it's going to be a challenge. At least it would be for me and my players, because I don't remember the last time I ran anything underwater, or last time my players were involved in an extended underwater thing. One of the guys was running a game, and they had like a minor underwater battle with a giant crocodile, but it was like, an average fight is 5-6 rounds or something, that was done. But an extended stay in that type of topsy-turvy, anything, every directions are potentially dangerous environment. I could see that being very challenging. And if your game master is better prepared for it, I could see characters getting just chewed on savagely.
Well, I mean, I really I didn't try to write a niche book here, meaning that hey, this is for people who really get off on underwater adventures. I've hopefully given every DM the tools to read this, go through it, and through sidebars of explaining different mechanics, that with just one read through, every person who wants to run a game is going to feel confident that they can do so effectively and present a thrilling adventure. And that's what we're doing, is working on final layout, is what mechanic, in what order do I deliver this to the reader? That's the final tweak we're working on right now. So that's the goal. So this is not, hey, if you love water, you're gonna love this. I'm really trying to write a book that if you love D&D, you're gonna love this book. And I know everyone tries to do that, but that's what I'm really trying to do.
Because I honestly, I believe that if I were to pitch this to my group, they'd be like, "Oh, really? Really?
Well,
you don't want to be in the water?"
The part I would say, especially to your group, is there is some. Let me tell you this. This is an aside. So my wife is a tremendous proofreader, and it's because she's a painfully slow reader. She reads every character of every word that she reads. I'd lose my mind.
My wife does the exact same thing.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't need to read those 5 words. Just skip to the end. What are you doing?
But she's a great proofreader. In fact, she gets off on finding mistakes in published books. She's got a highlighter on finding. Look at this. They've been, so she does a great job. And we were out for her birthday, a few weeks ago, and her mom was along. And I was telling her, "Hey, Cal, I got to get this book into the publisher. Can you please wrap it up? I know it takes you a while, but I need to get this in." And so my mother-in-law says, "Oh, I'm a good proofreader. Can I read your book?" And I'm thinking, oh my God, there is some weird shit in this book. Some really weird, creepy stuff. This is beyond normal.
And that teenage gamer has to come up, "Fuck, mom wants to read my stuff. How do I explain this to you?"
Yeah. That's exactly it. So that's what I'll finish the story and I'll come back to your group. I said, okay. Just so you understand, this is not a novel. This is a D&D adventure. So this is something that you would present this and play this to players. She knows what D&D is. She follows enough of what I do. So she read it. She took it, and 2 days later, she came back to me and said, "I love your writing style. I love the book. I really want to play this game." I thought, you got to be kidding me. That's crazy, which was great. But anyway, so that's why I pitched it to your group. If you're squeamish about, oh boy, water's not really my thing. I think your guys all like weirdness, and there's some real twists here that are like, holy. I mean, there's some really creepy stuff that I've built into this because I think even when I just snorkel and I look at sea life, it's such a different world. It's just like you stepped into another dimension, into another realm entirely. And I'm trying to capture some of the creepiness. We're all, us sun worshippers, air breathers, land dwellers. When we are in that environment, we feel very vulnerable, and rightly so.
I think that's because everything in there will eat you if it's given a chance.
And
everything.
Exactly. And that's the kind of vibe I'm trying to give the players as they get deeper, and you go down to a Sahagan city. Wow, good luck with that, and you're going to see some shit that is going to freak you out because they're not like us, and in fact, they're very, very different from us. So that would be the people who say, well, I'm not really into ships, and that's really not my thing either. I mean, if I had to pick, what. In broad strokes, that wouldn't be my first choice. I mean, I tend to be an urban adventure with some outdoor adventuring is probably what I like to do most. But that's why I took this on as a challenge to say, could I satisfy a skeptical asshole like me who would be a player in this game? Would I enjoy this? And that's what I was trying to accomplish. So I don't know. We'll see.
I picked out my my Saltmarsh modules, my original ones, started thumbing through them. I'm like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And when the new Saltmarsh thing comes out, I'm like, maybe. And talking to you now, I like this. One of the things that's kind of been drawing me back to it was thinking exactly this. If it's unique enough, if it's not just, look, I'm being attacked by pirates. Oh, now I've got sharks are circling the bed, blah, 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 dragon turtle. Yeah. If it's got enough new/different, weird, off normal, right? Whatever that is, because much like yourself, we've been playing. I've been playing since third grade. You've been doing this long enough.
Yeah.
You go, oh yeah, it's one of these, it's one of those, it's Kuatoa, it's this, it's this, it's this. Oh yeah, and that's a water weird. You just know all this shit.
Yeah.
And if you're able to take it and tweak it around a little bit, some of what you said makes it seem much more original to me than some of the trope. Because every time I go to the water, I feel so bound by the tropes. I don't know how to break them. So for no other reason, I think reading this might be a good way to kind of get my brain unlocked from that.
Well, and I think you guys are going to really like Saltmarsh too. I just think the guys and gals who worked on that book did a great job. I privy to a little bit. Some of the stuff, got to see some of it. It's pretty amazing. So that's why I'm just so delighted it's such a good book, because people are going to play that and say, man, that was great. I want more of that. And so, hey, look at me over here. I got this one that is that takes you to a higher level and much more dangerous Sahagin. I've built a bunch of new monsters to make this all work. So, yeah.
So you mentioned the levels, Alex. What is it geared towards?
Start at level 1 through 10. 1 through 10 is the whole book.
1 through 10. Do you have a page count yet?
I don't. It's not that far along, and because it hasn't. Art has not met words yet.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what that's going to be. Word count is going to be in that 75K range, something like that, 80K, something like that. I don't know. We're still tweaking all that, but it's just going to be a full length hardbound.
So I guess, like you said, this isn't necessarily your groove to begin with. You took it on as a challenge. Was there a particular piece of crafting something for this type of adventure that you found, like, I'm just banging my head in this fucking wall? How do I get out of this jam? How do I get this thing to be interesting? Was there a sticking point where you're like, fuck all this? Did that hit you?
No. Well, the problem was that for me is I created. It's a mystery, so I'm leaving clues and making the clues significant enough that they move the plot without being game breaking if they miss them. And so having kind of alternate routes to get to the spot that they need to go to the next plot point took me some time. It wasn't quite like, fuck this, I'm done, but it was, man, I need to rethink this, because now what happens if they go there? And they, so it was, gosh, playtesting is just such a wonderful thing. I can't stress it enough if you're a designer, and we all know this, but it's tough when you're like you and me, Brad. We're just doing this ourselves, and I've had a little more help with that than because with the publisher that's helping me. But man, getting it out there and really kicking it around, because it's amazing what players will do. I think, oh wow, that's great information. It really helps then to fine tune. I had some really good games in GaryCon. If any of those folks are out there listening, there's an NPC. I don't really like that term. A player in my story that is now not in the book, thanks to you guys. So I had to.
They broke it?
Yes. I said, no, you can't take that guy and do that with them. That's not a thing you can do. So I just decided it's easier to remove the temptation and take him out of the book entirely and just write it a different way. So, that's the thing, especially with the mystery, because you don't want to make it so, we can't find the next thing. This is dumb. Or it's too easy. This has to be. It's just it's a challenging thing to write, but it's ultimately very enjoyable. But it took a long time. That's why it's taken me here we are 14 months later that I'm delivering a finished product.
I think that what you said there is kind of interesting, and I did similar stuff with my Avalon pieces where I was just finishing up my Blacksmith's Folly little stretch goal adventure I'm putting together, and there's certain things that the last time I playtested was actually at GaryCon with some gamers I knew out of a couple different states showed up. Anyway, point is there certain pieces like, I need to remove this, right? So if you don't want pirates in your game, you don't want your players tempted to become pirates, don't fucking put pirates in there. Don't even plant the seed. And I think especially with when you're trying to build a mystery and investigation in that way, you need to be very cautious with it, because you want to keep it moving you don't want it's not a dungeon crawl. You could say, you know what, we're done. We've got enough gold. We retire. Make new characters. Go on to the next bit.
Sure.
You want to keep it rolling, and I think that's an important piece. where at a certain point, again, you're going to get it from playtesting and say, you know what, this isn't work. Just yank it out, and that will help the whole darn thing flow faster. I like that.
Sure. You
advice.
you have to we've talked about the, every time the three of us get together and we talk about game design and game concepts. There's this railroad versus sandbox versus funnel. How do you handle all that? And I think the hardest part of when you're writing a big adventure, a long one anyway, is the first few levels or first third of the book or whatever, because you're casting a pretty broad net and you're trying to get things then moving. I view it as more as a funnel, as to where you want the story to be at the 1/3 mark, to then go to the next section. That's challenging, man. That's challenging.
This has got to be the longest, biggest scope adventure you've written. Am I correct?
True. This means a tremendous amount to me. As a young kid who first was in Value Village in Portage, Wisconsin, and saw the 4 D&D hardbounds that fundamentally changed my life forever. To the thought of my having a hardbound book, a D&D hardbound adventure in stores with my name on it, is humbling, and it's a big deal to me, and it means a lot to me. So that's why I'm so passionate about it and work so hard on it, because I just really want this to be great. I don't want people to read it and say, "Well, that's dumb." that would be hurtful, and I really hope that's not the case. So
if you'd like to make Alex cry when you see him,
exactly,
that's what
your
you do.
book sucks, dude. Oh man,
you will crush him.
Yep, I will. I'm sensitive.
Sean, do you have any more questions?
No, but I do. Well, actually, I do have one.
Get him.
So I don't know if Alex can divulge this, and if you can't, we'll edit it out. But Beetle and Grimm, have you talked to him?
And moving on.
No, yes, I made an allusion to a company that is very similar, if not exactly that, earlier in the discussion. So yes, that is quite. I can, leave it in, because I'm quite confident that's going to happen.
Cool.
That we're going to have some crossover participation from them, and we've gotten to pretty detailed stuff. It's just another couple days and I can tell you exactly what, but I don't want to say that if I'm not sure it's going to happen. Yeah. They're going to participate. It's the what exactly they're going to do is we're down to I'm 95% sure I know what they're going to do, and so are they. But it's really a matter of, they have some math to do on their end, we have some math to do on our end, and to make it all work. And I think it's all going to work out, but unfortunately I still need a few more days before I can say exactly what that is.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Alex, is there anything more about just Waterborne Adventures, underwater stuff that you want to any words of wisdom you want to leave with this before we move on?
Just like anything else, it's preparation. Put yourself, if you're going to run a game like that, put yourself in that environment and think about it, what that means. If you're not, think about what it really means to try to swing a slashing sword through the water. Is that going to work? And what that means, how that changes your kit. For instance, being the dwarf with plate mail on the deck of a ship. Does that sound like a good idea? So all those real things. The more thought you can put into what are the actual hazards here, because we're so used to dungeon crawls where, screw it, I don't care, I'm gonna rock in there with my kid and I'll make it work. Well, that environment you can't be that disrespectful to a water environment, or it's not going to work out for you. So that's it as far as that goes.
Cool. Sean, if you don't have anything else, I think we can move on to die roll and then get Alex out of here.
All right, die roll. So I only have one this week.
What have you got?
And I've got. I was reminded by Eric Lemarou that they're kickstarting Wise Guys.
Oh, very cool. The Savage World
Worlds.
stuff.
Yeah. So if you are I think some of the stuff that I've run at cons, specifically at Gamehole Con, about the Forget About It game. Some of this is derived from that. So if you like 1960s or 70s Vegas mobster kind of RPGs, then this is one to check out. And Carl Kiesler is involved in that. So some of the artwork and stuff is pretty top notch. When you hear this, it's going to end Friday, April 19th. so it's not too far along. And then I'm sure you'll be able to get it in other resources like drive-through and.
Yeah, they're funded too. Just so folks know, they were looking at for $5,000. They've made $10,586 as of right now. So good job, Eric. Well done. So Alex, your Kickstarter is end of April. Did you say April 30th? What's the day?
I think it's April 30th. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that's the time.
So when it hits, obviously we're going to need links and all that good stuff from you, man. So let us know so we can pimp the hell out of it because I got to back this damn thing. So I want to know where it is so I can find it.
Sure. Shout out to a couple of my friends who have their own Kickstarter going right now. It's called Creeping Cold. Ian and Jason are doing this. They're the Silver Bullet, I believe they call themselves. They have a 5e adventure that's already funded, and it sounds pretty cool. So if you just Google Creeping Cold on Kickstarter, you'll see it. I backed it. It sounds like a really great. Brent talking about challenging environments, and one that I don't believe has really been addressed too much in 5e. So check it out if you have a looking for another 5e adventure.
Very cool. Found that one on Kickstarter real easily. Just type in Creeping Cold. I'll have a link in the show notes there as well. Well, cool, man.
Yeah.
Are we good, Sean? I think we're good.
We are good.
All right, let's wrap the sucker up. Let Alex go.
All right. Well, are we talking about anything next week?
Probably. I don't know what it is yet.
Well, I have Victor on the roster.
Do you? Empire
Yeah.
Pedal Throne. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Alex knows Victor. I think it's either Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll talk about a little Tecmel and
very
Empire of the
cool.
Pedal Throne.
You know, an interesting thing to talk about with Victor. Not that I want to try to engineer your show, but this,
No,
this,
do it, man. If you've got inside info, we'll hit him with it.
No,
we need all the help we can get, Alex.
Well, I noticed.
Anything.
I was a little taken aback when you said the show number 200 some. Holy cow, that's you guys. So I get it. I'm sure it's tough to come up with topics. That's a lot of shows. That's congratulations. That's
Well, it's
tremendous.
easy if you really don't talk about anything. Like you could easily do this, Alex. Just put like number 200 up there and just like, hi, I'm Alex. Every couple weeks.
Funny. That's
Blah blah game hole. Blah blah game hole. There we go.
A good thing I think of that just as a part of the conversation with Victor is talk about the OSR. I don't know if you call it a movement or a phenomena or what is and what is not OSR gaming. The sort of the problems, at least either the toxicity or the perceived toxicity that's in that group. I consider myself an OSR gamer to some extent. I guess I certainly consider myself an old school gamer, being as such an old bastard as I am, and have played so much 1E and OD&D and so on. But I know Victor has strong feelings about that subject because he was sort of one of the first guys out there who was, a decade ago or more, really working to preserve and promote, original and older games, and so sort of where that group of gamers, or I don't know, movement. I don't think you call it a movement. Whatever it is, where it is now, and the perceptions about it is an interesting one. And I know he's got some thoughts on that subject.
Well, that's cool. That's very cool.
So
Good advice, man.
I know I always like talking to Victor. I mean, we got a beer like a few weeks ago and just talked for a little while, and then he had to go off to Noble Knight Games and play old school games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know he's good stuff.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite.
Yeah. Well, hey, Alex, thanks for coming on the show as always.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Oh man, I appreciate it. You guys are awesome, and thanks so much. I will. I'll catch you with the beer sometime soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, hey, this one's all wrapped up. Thanks for listening and contributing and partaking, and I think that's it. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming in BS brought to you with the help from the following BSers: Graham Miner, Corey Wynn, Andy Hall, Hawk Sparrow, Larry Hout, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, Chris Steele, Ron Bishop, Thomas Hook, Wayne Humfleet, Craig, Brandon Barnes, Laramie Wall, Dan LaValle, Jason Hobbs, Sky, Roger Braslett, John Hammersley, Old School DM, Perry Basor, Michael Dinos, Jim Fitzpatrick, Christopher Gray, Bruce Cunnington, John Coward, Corey Gonzalez, Eileen Barnes, Robert Nemeth, Niall Diamond, Angus, Howard Bishop, Stefan Dragonspawn, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Eric Salzwedel, Trevor Davis, The Closet Gamer, Jeff Goad, Aaron Coleman, Ray Otis, C.W. Mellencamp, Chad Glayman, Finolf, Mirko Froelich, Lord Tentacle, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, Josh Wallace, Kevin Lovecraft, Andy Olson, and Tony Sugarloaf Baker. For ways to support the show, head over to gamingandbs.com/support-us. Thanks, BSers!
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.